Hey guys, Whitney here. Welcome to the Passive Investing Made Simple Masterclass. I'm your host, Whitney Elkins Hutton, the Director of Investor Education here at PassiveInvesting.com. You guys get settled into your Zoom room. I want to make sure that if you have any questions, you are going down to the bottom of your Zoom player and asking questions in the Q&A box that helps us stay organized. But if this is your first time here to the masterclass, welcome. Go over to the chat box and drop in like where you're joining from. It's always fun to, you just see where everybody's tuning in from. Also, if this is your first time joining, welcome. This is a live webinar that we do every Tuesdays at 3 p.m. Eastern, 1 p.m. Mountain. And where we just go into all the ins and outs regarding passive investing, so you can go into your first or next investment with confidence. And if you haven't done so already, make sure to check out PassiveInvestingWithWhitney.com. There, I have a free ebook for you, Passive Investing Made Simple, as well as you can get access to future masterclasses, skills boot camps, as well as our open deals here at PassiveInvesting.com. So make sure to check out PassiveInvestingWithWhitney.com. All right, guys, let's bring in our special guest today. I'm so excited because we haven't talked investor services at all on the masterclass, and it's such a vital role in any passive investor's journey. I am so excited to be joined by our investor services manager, Emily Mooneyham. Emily, welcome to the show.
Hi, thanks for having me. I'm glad to be here.
Yeah, well, okay. Investor services, probably not like the sexiest part of actually, when a limited partner is placing their investments, but it is a critical role and a critical person on their investing team that they need to get to know. So I am so excited to have you on here because we're going to go over some of those common questions that investors have. And you and I were talking before the show, we're going to break them up into like 3 buckets. Those questions that investors have before they actually place their investment, those questions that they have as they are funding their investment, and then we're going to wrap up with kind of like that ongoing customer service touch point that you have with investors and the common questions that occur during that relationship. So, Emily, before we get started on all those different buckets of questions, tell us a little bit about yourself and your role here at PassiveInvesting.com.
Okay, well, I have been with PassiveInvesting.com a little over a year now. I started April of last year. So it's been a great fun time. I'm getting to learn things that I've never learned before. But I am out of actually Lexington, South Carolina, just to let you know, on the East Coast, which is right outside of Columbia, where kind of our main office is located. So it's just been fun learning. I recently became investor services manager, which was great. So I lead a team of people that really, like Whitney said, just help you, the investor, go through this process as seamlessly as possible, and to be here to answer any questions that you have from start to finish, and to keep that relationship ongoing so that everybody's comfortable in the process.
Awesome. Well, let's dive in. Okay. So the first part is, all those questions that investors have before they actually get invested. And this is outside of, what are the returns? What is the business plan? This is like the nuts and bolts. Like, how do I actually complete the paperwork, get that accreditation complete, right? So let's start there. What are some of those questions that investors have before they actually that they have before they actually literally get invested into the asset?
Yeah, absolutely. So one of the main questions is, how can I invest, right? And we have a few different ways on how you can invest. You can invest as an individual. You can invest through an entity or a trust, or also as a joint with your spouse. So you can also, another question is, can I invest through my IRA? Which, yes, you can. So every IRA can be a little different, and that might get into another question here if you spaces down on specific IRA questions, but as long as you are an accredited investor, then we will be welcoming you with open arms. So many ways to do it. As long as you have the proper things to back it up, your forms, operating agreements, we're here to help you, and we're here to help you obtain those things if you don't have them as well. So,
well, and I think that brings up a really, interesting question, because so many investors that I speak to, they're like, well, first of all, to the point, like, how can I get invested? And that is something that we can help them do, but we can't provide the guidance on how they should do that. So that's really where we're pointing you, and you're pointing them back to work with their legal and tax counsel. Now, also on the accreditation piece, that we also have resources for investors, and maybe you can clue them in on how best they can achieve their accreditation. But we don't take the bank accounts ourselves. We don't review that. We don't look at that ourselves. So,
right.
When an investor is trying to understand, okay, am I accredited or am I not? Can you just look at my bank statements and make this easy? What resources do we have for them? And why don't we just look at their bank statements?
Yeah. So the resources we have at passiveinvesting.com, we can accept a signed letter from your licensed CPA, financial professional. We do provide templates for you as well. If your CPA maybe has not done one before, or you just want to be a little more familiar and expedite that process. So to make sure that we have everything that we need, but we do have templates for you to provide to your licensed professional. We also work with a third-party company. It's called Parallel Markets. They're easy to work with. We provide a link to you after you have committed to us through a soft commitment, and then you've gone through this process of filling out the PPM, which we'll get to later. But we do provide that for you free of charge. So it's very quick. It's very easy to become, to show your verification. So, and I don't know if you want me to get into an accredited investor specifically, but in order to be an accredited investor, you have to have a net worth of $1 million. And that does not include your primary residence. You also, or it can be a annual income of $200,000 for at least the past 2 years, or $300,000 if you're married with a spouse. And you just have to set the expectation that is the expectation for the next couple of years at least. So once you provide all that documentation through the Parallel Markets link, they will be very easy to work with. Sometimes it's a turnover of 12 hours. It just depends on how quickly you have, the documents that they're looking for, which I believe can be some tax documents and things like that. The things that we do not accept, because we just want the actual letter itself and it's ready to go so that we can expedite your investment process.
Awesome. Okay. And, those are some great questions that investors have. And also, I know, when somebody's new to the process, that they're kind of like a little baffled. They're like, why do I have to show all this? And that's not our rule. That's the rule of the Securities and Exchange Commission. And because our assets, we operate under the 506C regulation of Regulation D. Again, all these numbers, all these letters, they're part of the Securities and Exchange Commission because we operate under those guidelines. That is, the accredited letter is a requirement dictated from them, not us. One of the next questions that I know investors have is how much, what is the minimum investment, right? They're interested. They're trying to figure out, like, do I do cash? Do I do it jointly? Do I invest through my IRA? Am I an accredited investor? And now they're getting down to brass tacks. Like, how much? What is the minimum investment? And then why do they need to know that before they actually put in their soft commit?
Yeah. So it's really dependent upon the asset and what, which one we are with current offerings that we have. So we have what's called the debt fund. And with that asset, we can take a $25,000 minimum investment. Any other funds that are assets that we are funding, it's usually a minimum of $100,000. Now, that's not to say that sometimes, if we want to break it up between maybe an individual and a joint investment with your wife, 50 here, 50 there. So everything is always, we are more than happy to keep an open door and talk about things. But for the most part, we do require it to be a $100,000 minimum investment. But as you know, sometimes when we get down to the funding stages and we need a little more, or if we have some people that drop out, if we have just a small amount to fill, then we're gonna, work with you and work with our team to make sure that you can get invested in that asset where we need to be. So.
Yeah, and it's really important that we understand how much you're investing prior to your investment, because when you put in that soft commitment, right, you're essentially kind of like licking that your place in line. You're securing your place in line as you review the documents. And so it's really good for us to fully understand. So don't just put in a random number, put in a real number that you're going to invest. And that brings me to, the next step, the documents piece. So what questions typically do investors have regarding the documents, the PPMs?
Right. So, once you soft commit and we send you, the confirmation email that you've committed this much, next steps really are in that email. And that next step is filling out the PPM, the documents, subscription documents, in order to, legally bind ourselves to things so that you have everything in writing and vice versa. So one of the biggest questions we always have is, well, why, or can you pre-fill this document out for me? Or I put 25,000 in my soft commitment. Why is it not in there already? Those two kind of go hand in hand. And, we do not pre-fill out your documents. We, rely on you to give us the accurate information. We know some other places do that, and that's not to say that we might not do that down the road. I don't know. I can't say for that. But for now, we have you, the investor, fill out your name, your address, your social security number, and it comes right back to me so that myself and my team can copy paste. We can create your profile, and everything is accurate there. Another big question that comes up specifically for the document is, what do I click for do I put in my EIN number or my social security number, depending on how you're investing? That's obviously a question for your CPA or legal team, depending on how you're going to file your taxes, right? So we just want to make sure that that adds up to how you're going to file. Those are some main questions that we get. And usually sometimes, we have to walk through and help our investors sometimes with the actual document, because, DocuSign can be finicky sometimes, unfortunately, but for the most part, it's pretty self-standard, it's pretty self-explanatory. You click whether you're investing as an individual, and it takes you through those pieces in the document very seamlessly. So, but we are always available to help, be on the phone with you, on a video call, however you need it to go through the document.
And for those people who are really into self-service and want to expedite getting that document filled out, I actually did a webinar, and I'll repeat it here again soon, a live webinar on how to complete the PPM and subscription agreements. Now, each investment does differ just a little bit, but our documents are generally drafted with the same legal team, and so there's quite a bit of overlap between deal to deal. And so I did put together that webinar for you guys. You can find that on YouTube, and follow along with that. But of course, as Emily stated, make sure you complete the documents according to how you're investing legally, and then also tax wise, how you're doing. You need to be invested.
Yeah. Well,
now, go for it.
Well, I was just going to say, another with the IRAs, that's kind of a different side of that, right? So depending on who you invest through your IRA, they always have a specific way of how you, the investor, needs to fill it out, depending on how your IRA is set up, right? So we always suggest to our investors, when they tell us they're investing through an IRA, we always send them a PDF copy of the documents so that they can push that to their custodian and rep to make sure that everybody's on the same page about the name of the subscriber, the EIN numbers, and all of that. Because at the end of the day, we want you to be comfortable when tax season does roll around that everything is accurate on both ends, from your IRA and from our end. So.
Absolutely. And so I love how you mentioned, get the IRA company, and more specifically, a self-directed IRA company. So yeah, Vanguard, Charles Schwab, Fidelity, we don't work with those custodians, but we can work with more self-directed custodians. And I know we have some internal lists if people need I can't say referral, but like need some ideas on who to talk to on a potential provider. And I want to switch, streams here a little bit. So we talked about some of those questions that investors have before they actually are, as they're trying to complete the paperwork, get into the investment. What, somebody has their PPM filled out, they got their accreditation letter in, they're pretty much ready to go. Now they're down to wiring the funds. Like what are some questions that come up there with funding the actual investment?
So honestly, this is kind of the easy part, right? I mean, we've got all of the hard stuff out of the way, and now we just need to receive the funds so that we can place them in a timely fashion with the sale of closing of the asset, right? So a lot of the questions are, can I mail a check? And the answer is yes, you can. And all of the information for wiring checks, however you're going to send us the money, is always on the first page of our PPM. Again, there's always communication on that page as well on who to call or who to email to verify that information. But mostly, I would say about 95% of our investors wire their funds, which we do provide the wiring information on the PPM. Some of them do still write checks, which is fine as well. We do make sure that you are aware that, snail mail is snail mail, right? It takes a while to get to us. And we are based at passiveinvesting.com all over the country, right? So we do have a small office here in Columbia. And we do try to check that mail every day, but sometimes it's every other day. So we have to keep that in mind when we do receive it. Also, you can ACH your funds. It just takes, can take 3 to 5 days. So instead of a wire, which comes through very quickly. So that's one of the things that we get when an investor sends an ACH and we're not aware, right? We don't know that it's coming, and it's not something that the bank dings us. And I say us, myself and my team, to where we know it's coming. So that's kind of tricky with ACH when we go to look for it, especially if you're not putting in your name or who the subscriber that you signed the investment to in your documents. So you've got to be really careful about making sure that we know who that money should be going to and what subscriber it's going to, so we know how to place it accurately.
There's a lot of things that I want to pull out in there and really call attention to. You mentioned where where they can find the wiring information, and just with wiring and fraud on the rise, make sure this is hard-earned cash. Reach out and double confirm the wiring instructions, ACH instructions, and stuff like that. We put that there for a reason, so please take advantage of that. And then, also, when you send your funds, do you enjoy, I'm going to ask this kind of rhetorical question, but do you enjoy getting more communication around when somebody sends their funds, or less communication?
Usually more. I personally, and I'm going to teach my team, I'd rather have more information and not need it than need it and not have it. Right. So, like I said earlier, call us, email us. Hey, I'm wiring my funds, or hey, I'm ACHing my funds. It should arrive here. I sent it this day. And ultimately, like you said, Whitney, this is your hard-earned money. And we understand that, and we're empathetic to that. And we want to make sure that you are comfortable with us. And so not only do we provide all of that information in your, secure documents, we have a number that you can call on there. We have my personal email. We have the team's email. And we also send you a confirmation email within 24 hours of us receiving that. money. So we want to make sure, and if we don't hear back from you, we always say, we received your funds. Please reply back to this email so that, we know that It's kind of a back and forth, but, sometimes we just want to, put that peace of mind for you.
All right. So now the investors invested. Their money has hit the account, so to speak. What are some questions that they have, like, once they're invested?
When will my money start accruing, right? When do I start getting returns? How do I get set up in the portal? Those are some of the bigger things. I think, especially for our PIC debt fund, when will my funds get placed, right? All of this is all dependent upon the closing of the asset, right? When the asset actually closes. It also is dependent on when we receive your funds in correlation with that. So as you have been invested, you've sent us the money, we have confirmed with you, we have now put you on a communication with our team, letting you know when that asset will close. You'll be on monthly, emails for that asset. You'll also get an invite to us to the portal to where you will be able to view your investments and keep up with it. So that will come directly from myself, my team, as an email, so that you'll go in, you'll create it, your password, and then your investment's there. So we say we received it, it's going to be there. So
awesome.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, tax time. What are some things that investors, can expect from our investor service team during tax time?
I mean, that's the biggest thing that they can expect from us, right? Is communication. So we want to make sure before the end of the year that everything in your portal is accurate, right? Your social security number, your address, your name is on there. I mean, mistakes happen, people put an R instead of an F, or, we want to be sure everything is right. So we usually will send communication emails to our investors towards the end of the year, asking them to please go into your portal, take a look, make sure everything looks right to you. If it doesn't, please let us know so that we can make sure that everything's accurate before we send the information to our tax team. So Investor Services, work very closely with our finance department, in which our finance department works with a few different tax firms to draft up all of your K-1s in that time frame, right? So we want to make sure we'd rather make sure things are right beforehand than come tax time in March, April, then, you see it come to you and something's misspelled or a number's wrong. We will fix it, but, we want to get it right the first time for you. So.
Yeah. And then what is that timeline like in the first quarter of the year, for the expectation of, K-1s to be delivered? Like, what does that timeline look like?
We try to get them out by March 1 of every year. Sometimes that's our expectation. That's what we try to do. And sometimes, things get pushed. We've got a lot of investors, and we use many different tax teams to create that expedition as quickly as possible, right? But anytime we do have a setback or we do have a pushback of a timeline, whether it's a week or a few days, we will always communicate via email. Please don't fret, it's coming. When it does come, you will receive the email from us, which it does come from us, saying that your K-1 has been uploaded to your portal. At that time, you'll be able to go to your document section. It's there to view, it's there to download, and it's also there for you to ask any questions if you don't understand it. We are here to help as much as we can. Otherwise, once you have it, it's for you to take to your CPA, your financial advisor, your tax people, for them to take over to make sure that everything is buttoned up on your end.
Mm-hmm. And, this is something that I love trying to help investors understand, is that, while a lot of people might be filing a personal return, we're filing a business return for a multi-unit asset. And the last thing you want us doing is coming back in May or June going, oh, we had to amend that return, right?
Right.
Here's your K-1, which now triggers you amending your taxes. So we really would rather take a little bit extra time on the front end in March to make sure that K1 is 100% accurate for you.
Absolutely.
That way, you as the investor can, feel safe and secure about filing the proper return. And
That's
for
right.
those people, I know we're going to get a lot of questions here after our recording about the K1. Our director of finance, Tal Brody, did an amazing recording with me last February. You can find it on our YouTube channel, walking you through how to read a K1. Well, Emily, this has been amazing because really what we've done is, helped you, one, our investors got to meet you, the face behind the email, the investor service. But two, like, just really get to understand like all those things that you and your team do to serve our investor before they get invested, while they're trying to place funds, and then just on an ongoing relationship, afterwards to serve them. So Emily, if there's, an investor that's, currently considering investing with us, or one that is already invested with us, if they needed to reach out to you, how could they do so?
So they can email me to my email, which is Emily@passiveinvesting.com. It's Emily with a Y. Or you can email investorservices@passiveinvesting.com. That will go to an inbox that I do review myself daily, along with my team and our investor relations team as well. So if there are specific questions that, trail off into another portal or dimension that might not be my lane, at least we've got the other team members involved that we can get you some quick answers. But yeah, you can reach me that way, and we'll be more than happy to answer any questions you have. So
awesome. Emily, thank you so much for joining me today. If you're here live, don't go anywhere. We're about to start our Ask Me Anything session.